Hello and welcome. My name is Tom. This is the Enthusiasm Project, Season 5, Episode 19. And oh boy, today we are going to dive into some super fun stuff. If you're watching the video version of this, there are a lot of things happening in the room, so I would just like to point that out and talk about that for a second. If you're not watching the video version, I will describe it. Last week I wow, this shot looks crazy. Last week, I talked about all of the nan lights that I was given from Nanlite, and this week for the podcast, I wanted to make sure to put every single one of them to use. So I'm basically sitting in a forest of rainbow pavo tubes right now, and this is a shot from the GoPro that makes it looks so cool because you can see all the colors, and like it's almost like the less than ideal quality from the GoPro is helping the pavo tubes look cooler, and then on my main shot they're not as noticeable, but it's cool. This is not a permanent lighting setup, so don't worry if you're like, your studio looked nice and now it looks kind of bizarre and silly. No, this is just for this podcast today, just for fun, as they say. So that's what's happening in the background there. Today we're going to talk about a tool that I think is going to be very, very helpful, potentially, and something that I've noticed and I've gotten questions on where people sort of feel confused by it. And before we dive into that, just a couple other quick little updates. If you're wondering which microphone I'm using today, I'm using the back on the Earthworks ICON. And I really, really like this microphone. But I'm also using the SM7B windscreen from Reporter Store, the blue windscreen, which it doesn't fit perfectly on there, but it's like 98% perfectly. And it definitely diminishes, here, I'm going to remove this. It definitely diminishes the really, I really love the style of the Earthworks ICON. It's a great looking microphone. It's just a really cool, visually appealing microphone. And it's definitely recommended, literally by Earthworks, that you position it off axis. So not off axis, but off to the side of your mouth so that it's not susceptible to those plosives. But while doing a podcast where I'm looking at other things, doing a lot of like screen sharing and talking about stuff today, it's hard to always remember mic placement. So popping on the little windscreen there really helps get rid of some of those plosives. And then with the windscreen, this ends up looking a lot like the Earthworks Ethos, which is like their new broadcast microphone that kind of looks more like this. Anyway, so that's the microphone that I'm using today, and it is on the Rode PSA-1 boom arm. But the reason I have to tell you that is because you might not be able to tell since there aren't giant Rode logos all over the boom arm. What? How did that happen? So if you watched my Rode PSA-1 review, PSA-1 Plus review, sorry, which is their new boom arm, I really said a lot of good things about it. I said it's basically like my favorite boom arm that I've used. It's really nice. Like it does not really pick up sound. I'm moving it all over the place right now, and it's not transferring to the microphone, really. Like the sound isn't transferring that much. It's very smooth. It's easy to position. It's easy to balance. It looks a lot like the original PSA-1, but there are these like neoprene sleeves on the side and has built-in cable clips to keep your cable organized. They redid the entire mounting point. So right now I have the Earthworks mounted vertically, which is kind of a hard thing to do typically on a PSA-1, although I did figure out ways to do it, and we can talk about that maybe another day. There's a simple little life hack for that. But anyway, on the PSA-1 Plus, it's a cool thing, except it comes with these giant Rode logos on it. There are 4 on each. There's 2 on each side, basically. Giant bright white Rode logo on the black neoprene. And I mean, it looks cool from like a marketing perspective, and I know people sometimes like it, especially there are people out there like myself who are big fans of Rode and what Rode does, and they like having the logos everywhere because it's a company that they like. But as I said in my review, it's just too distracting. And I had people say like, well, what about the Apple logo on the back of a MacBook? What about a Nike swoosh on a t-shirt or something? I think those can also be distracting, but also those are shapes. So you recognize it and you're like, oh, that's Apple, that's Nike, whatever. But they're shapes. The Rode logo is a word. And so I find myself just reading it over and over again. Because when I see text on screen like that, I can't help but just read it. And so I'm not paying attention to people when they're talking as much when I see that, because I keep looking at it and reading the Rode. Like, it's very distracting. I made the video where I talked about that, and then I've been using the arm outside of that on, streams, podcasts. There's like a few interviews that I did with other podcasts, and just some video calls and, stuff in our Just Create More community and everything. And every single time, even without me bringing it up, somebody would mention the logo. They would either like do something sarcastic like, "Hey Tom, what kind of boom arm are you using there?" Because it, it says Rode Giant in like all these different places. Or what I did once was I was being a guest on oh my gosh, Greg and Ken's podcast, the Created Content podcast, maybe like a week and a half ago. And it's a video podcast. And I was using the boom arm and I was like, I don't want to be distracting. So I did the simple tip of just putting some gaff tape over the logo. And, 20 minutes into the interview, they were like, "Hey, what's with the tape on the boom arm there?" I was like, ugh. So no matter what I do, it's distracting. In my video for the PSA 1, I talk about using this solvent that's made for taking like vinyl letters off of t-shirts, which is basically the same kind of way that the lettering is applied here. And I had tried it and it worked okay, but it looked a little messy. And unfortunately, these sleeves, you can't cut them because they're sewn on here. I thought they were like Velcro before I got the boom arm. So you can't really take them off without destroying them. You can't turn them inside out or anything like that. They're just kind of there. And so I actually have 2 of these boom arms because Rode sent me one, but it got damaged in shipping. And I told them that, and they said, "Well, before you make a video about it, don't use the damaged one in the video. We'll send you another one." But the damaged one, I was able to like piece back together where I think it works pretty well. I don't really think, it seems like it works fine. Maybe not 100%, but it's pretty good. And that was kind of my experimental one that I like was trying to take the logos off with. And so I was actually just going to cut the sleeves off just to see what would happen. But before I did that, I thought, I'm going to try this solvent a little more. And so basically what I did was I put a whole bunch of that solvent. I can put a link to it in the show notes here, but it's t-shirt vinyl letter removal stuff. I'll put that on here, and I really like soaked the sleeve, and then I used an alcohol wipe to just keep wiping it. And I had like a soft cloth, but I didn't want to use a rough cloth. I didn't want to use like a little brush or anything because that can tear apart or start messing up the material. So just the alcohol wipe worked, and it took a lot of scrubbing. But if you pour the solvent on, you pour a lot on it, you let it sit on the decal, the letters will start to like pucker and peel, and then you can kind of wipe them off. And then you just need to keep doing that over and over again till all the like the glue and the adhesive is gone, and it will go away. And now, I mean, even in bright light, you can't see that there was ever a logo on this boom arm. It's just solid black. It's like perfect. It works really, really well. That solvent is very flammable. So when you're done with that, I recommend also getting like just a wet cloth with water and just sort of trying to soak the things with water a little bit. And then I put my arm outside, my boom arm, not just my arm on my body, outside for a while. So that way it could air out before it came in here. There's no fumes or anything, but I don't know. There's a lot of flammable warnings on those bottles, and I didn't want to mess things up. Anyway, now I've got this super sweet boom arm that is totally functional and not branded and distracting, which is awesome. So that's a little update there. And then, oh boy, there's so many updates, so many things I wanted to tell everybody now. The next update, let's talk about, this is just sort of like a mini rant, because my video that came out this week was comparing the Deity Pocket Wireless to the Rode Wireless Go. So the little single receiver pocket, wireless things. I'm sure you're very familiar with them. They're great. Like, they're awesome. Rode came out with the Wireless Go a couple years ago, and a wireless microphone's not new, but this, their $200 wireless microphone where the transmitter has a built-in microphone, so you don't need to run a lavalier if you don't want to, although I prefer to. It's really cool. A great setup, great system, super versatile. They just clip on things. They're super easy to use. Having used some of the higher end, like pro level things a lot through jobs in the past, these are so much easier to use. They're not quite as reliable, but they're really good. And for just like a solo creator or a backup option, they're amazing. Rode came out with the Wireless Go 2 recently, which has a 2 transmitter system, but it's also $100 more. And it has onboard recording, which is really cool. So if you drop a signal, the transmitter is also recording. So you have like a backup. That's awesome. And then Deity came out with their version of a single transmitter one, which is cheaper than the Rode and comes with a lavalier microphone. And in my experience, works and sounds better. So I was like really excited about it. I've had it since summertime and I've been using it a lot and finally, made a video about it and just said how much I like it. And for $170, I think it's a really, really good deal. And that video, like I've gotten a lot of good feedback on it and people sharing their thoughts and stuff. But this thing has popped up. There's 2 things that are popping up, which is everyone saying, but there's a Rode Go 2, like the Rode Go 2. And I have to keep explaining that's not the same thing because it's double transmitter with onboard recording for $150 more versus single transmitter, no onboard recording. Like it's not the same thing. And then I'm going to just like get frustrated here. DJI, who now it seems like I'm like anti-DJI, they came out with their own version of these kinds of things recently, which was sort of under the radar. Like it didn't get covered under all of the other products they released recently. They came out with their own version of it, which looks kind of amazing and seems to be like better than all the other options, honestly. But it's also like $350 and back ordered for who knows how long. But what I have been getting, I've been spending the last 2 days now, it's like every other comment and message and stuff is about like the DJI one's better, the DJI one's better, the DJI one. And I have to keep telling people, I'm sure that it performs better because it costs 2.5 times as much as this. It should be better. Like, yeah, if it were worse, that would be terrible. And it's also a dual transmitter system. But the other thing is like, I guess I'm annoyed by DJI for reasons we've gone into in the past. But also, this is where I'm going to sound really snooty here. Wireless lavalier microphone systems are something that have been around for a long time. Very affordable consumer level wireless lavalier systems are relatively new. Things, like the Rode, the Deity, Comica has some. The ones that are $200 and under, but decent wireless systems, that's pretty new because you've never really had anything that was good and reliable in that product category. And so it opened up wireless lavaliers to a lot more people, which is a really good thing. And then now there are people who have never used lavalier microphone systems up until then, thinking that they're experts and telling me that this $350 one or $400 one, however much the prices seem to vary depending on where you look at it, is so much better than all the others. And my answer is yes, it should be because it is so expensive. But also, I would never buy that because if I'm going to spend $350 on a wireless microphone system, that's so much more money. That's so different than saying, hey, this Deity thing is $170. Should I get that? This DJI thing is $350. Like it's like when Canon goes, if you want full frame video mirrorless, you need to go to the Cinema series. And it's like, well, the R5 is $3,800. The C500 is $10,000. Like it's not the same thing, right? And the DJI, I think, is very awkwardly priced at being more expensive than the immediate competition. But okay, it is better. But it is still cheaper than the more pro options. But if I'm already spending $350 to $400, why not just spend another $150 and get like a legit Sony or Sennheiser system or something that's going to last decades? Like it will just last as long as you need it to last. It's not gonna like age out of firmware. It's not going to have a battery that you can't replace. It's not going to be irrelevant in a couple of years. It's something that as long as it doesn't get run over too many times by a truck, it's going to last forever. But the people who are the like DJI fanatics who are just saying that everything DJI makes is good don't understand that like actually it's kind of a bad deal because you're getting a consumer grade product for not much less than you could spend to get a true professional grade thing. And I'm just annoyed by that. But anyway, that's my rant. But talking about professional gear, here's my last update. I have a new camera sitting right over here to my left. You might have seen it in the intro shot. It's one of the big reasons I wanted to do a video version of today's podcast. This is the most expensive. You hear this? This is my ATEM Extreme deciding to just run its fans super loud all of a sudden. Anyway, this is if it were purchased new, the most expensive camera I've ever bought, because these can go anywhere from $10 to $20 to $30,000. But it came out in 2003, so I got it for $400 on eBay. But here, this is a Sony DSR 390. If you're listening to this and you're not seeing what I'm holding, it's a giant TV news camera, and it is awesome. My very first job, I'm going to talk all about this next week, so don't worry, because I don't have a battery for it yet. The battery's coming today. Ouch. The battery's coming today, and so we'll be able to like use it next week and everything. Even though this is almost 20 years old and it's standard definition, the basic form factor and the functionality is almost identical to like TV news cameras and stuff today in a lot of ways. And these cameras are, they're so durable. Like, you really understand, oh, that's what professional gear is like. And I used to use these when I interned at a TV station, which was my very first job. And that's why I wanted this specific type, because it was like the ones I used then. This is actually a little newer, because I started in 2001, and this is a 2003 camera. Maybe the specific one was manufactured in 2004. So it's actually newer than the ones I used at the TV station. But it's so cool, and it came with a lens, and it's in really good condition, and it came with like this amazing case and all this, like it's in really great shape. It's a DVC. It's a DV cam, so it takes big DVC tapes. But this specific one, why I also wanted this, is it also takes mini DV tapes, which I've been using in like my XL1 and my GL2, so I can put those tapes right in here as well. And it's just really fun. I mean, you've got XLR ports built in, you've got phantom power built in right in here, all kinds of audio controls, built-in ND filters. I'm going to talk all about this, and we'll use it next week. But it's fantastic. The only downside is the camera's not as bad, but the bag and stuff all smell like smoke. So I've been like letting it just air outside every day for a while. But anyway, very excited about this. And the reason that I thought about it this second right now is, speaking of pro level gear, it's such a different thing. So when you talk about like, well, the DJI thing's really good, or like something like a Sennheiser G4, which is more expensive, if you put those things side by side and you use them, you realize, oh, they're not even... Yeah, they're both wireless microphones, but they're not in the same category at all, because they're just entirely different beasts altogether. Anyway, that concludes updates and rants for this week, which I hope does not become a recurring segment. Unless you want it to, then maybe it could. All right, so I'm going to face this camera this way because I like looking at it from I just love these big TV lenses. They're so cool. Anyway, what we're really here to talk about today is media kits, because of course. Actually, this is something that I've talked a little bit about a long time ago, but I've never really gone into depth on. And I was thinking of something that would be really helpful and useful for people who listen to the show and watch the show. And I think a lot of people here might benefit from understanding more about media kits, how to make one, why you might want one, maybe why you don't want one. And then I can show you my process so you understand how they work. Basically, a media kit, if you're somebody who is any kind of content creator, doesn't matter, YouTube, podcasting, other platforms, combination of platforms, whatever it might be, having a media kit is something that you might want to consider. And basically what a media kit is it's almost like your creative resume. It might not be a perfect example, but everything that you make online is kind of a portfolio. Like a YouTube channel is a portfolio, a website's a portfolio, your combination of all these things is a portfolio. But a resume, like traditionally a resume is going to take everything that's in a portfolio, all your experience, all that stuff, and boil it down to just like the most important elements that you want to share with somebody. It's kind of what a media kit does. Now, the main original purpose for a media kit is really to have something for media, right? For brands, sponsorships, partnerships, whatever it might be. If they want to work with you, they want to know more about you, you can send them a media kit, and then it has analytics in there, it has data, it has bio info, and they can see if you're someone that you want to work with. So it tends to be something that's used when people want to seek out sponsorships and opportunities and stuff like that. which personally is not something that I do. Like I've not approached companies and been like, hey, let's please work together. Here's my media kit. Like it's not something I do. So I don't know that a media kit is like the most, I wouldn't say it's the most useful thing I have. Like having a website, making another YouTube video, whatever it might be, are more useful things. But now that I've had the media kit for just over 2 years, I think that it's a really cool thing, and I'm glad that I have it. And even though I don't use it, I don't personally use it to send out to brands, it's still very valuable. And if you are somebody who does want to approach brands and sponsors, which even though I don't do, there's nothing wrong with doing that. It's just, it's not part of my workflow. But if you want to do that, that's totally fine. This can be a really valuable tool. Sometimes if you want to work with a brand or a sponsor, one of the things they might be interested in are your analytics, because they want to know who's actually watching your stuff, what kind of numbers are you actually getting. And some companies will actually ask to have access to like your YouTube dashboard where they can see your analytics. I personally would never, ever, and have never given out access to my YouTube studio or my dashboard to anybody. And I would probably advise you not to do that for many, many reasons. But it is something that sometimes business and companies will ask for. As a creator, giving access to that kind of stuff is up to you. But that's where a media kit can be a lifesaver, because you can pick and pull some of the more common, maybe the more relevant analytics, and you can put them right there, and then everybody can see it, and they don't need to be logging into your behind the scenes stuff. Obviously, same rules would go with a media kit as a resume. Of course, you're going to do it in a way that makes you look good and impressive, but don't exaggerate. If you gained, I don't know, say you gained 500 new subscribers on your channel in a month, don't round up and say, I was actually 1,000. Like, keep the numbers accurate, keep things grounded and down to earth, because people will find out if you're not honest. So stay honest with your media kit. But it's a really cool way to also kind of condense everything that you do. Because if you say you have a YouTube channel, but you also have a podcast, but you also have a website, but you also maybe are active on some other platforms, maybe sell some courses, it's sort of hard to like tell somebody who's just like, hey, what do you do? And you're trying to like explain all of this stuff to them. It's sort of hard. Whereas your media kit can kind of condense it all in a way that you want. And you can prioritize stuff where, maybe you have a YouTube channel and a podcast, but your YouTube channel takes priority over your podcast. And so your media kit can emphasize that the most and then also talk about the podcast. Whereas if you just leave it up to other people to figure it out, they might be under the impression that it's flipped, and then, I don't know, their expectations might be different or something. So it's a good way for you to control your narrative. It's a good way if you want to do sponsorships. There are people out there who put actual rates in their media kits. I've never done that. For no real specific reason. I kind of think it's cool when people do that, but it's up to you. It's up to you. You don't have to do that. I don't have any rates in mine. We'll look through mine and I'll kind of explain why I have each page the way that I do. But you can put rates in there. So if you want to do a sponsorship or an integration or whatever, you can just say like, this is what I charge. And then anybody sees that media kit and everybody's just on the same page, right? It's like how I have my ethics statement public for everybody and everyone's on the same page. It can be the same thing with your media kit. It's up to you if you want to keep your media kit private and then send it out when people ask for it, or if you want to post it publicly. I do have mine posted on my homepage for the website. So if you go to himynameistom.com and you just scroll down to like the middle of the page, you'll see a little graphic that says like media kit here. And I update mine every month. So I try to do it at the beginning of the month, the first couple days, where you can go back and, so the beginning of November is where you can go back and see all of your full October analytics for everything and update everything from there. And it's a pain in the butt to create a media kit from scratch. But once you have it, it's easier to update. And there's some really nifty tricks you can do. Mine is just a PDF document. Some people have done slideshows, stuff like that. But I like PDFs because they look the same. The formatting remains the same no matter what it's opened on. If someone's looking at it in a browser, if they're on a Mac or a PC or whatever, it's all going to look the same. I create mine in Photoshop, and then I assemble the PDF in Pages, and then upload it to Squarespace for my website. So that's kind of the basic process, but I'll walk you through all of that. There is a thing, it's so funny because I felt like there was there was a point where it was like everyone was saying you have to have a media kit, have to have a media kit. And then recently it's like, oh, media kits are kind of useless. And just a few weeks ago, I was having a conversation with someone where they were saying, there's no point in having a media kit. Nobody's ever going to ask for your media kit. But literally that morning, like a couple of hours before having this conversation, 2 separate people had reached out and were like, hey, where can I get access to your media kit? Like it. And I don't know if that's, I don't know. I don't know how valuable it is. I guess it depends on what your goal is. It depends on what your goal is, whether you think it's valuable or not. I have found that it's a good thing to have. It's definitely not my number one tool or resource, but it's a great thing to have. And more than anything, this is really why I kind of wanted to share it with you today, is more than building partnerships or sharing that info, it has been actually a really cool way for me to track stuff in a simple format, because there's so many analytics when it comes to something like YouTube that you can get buried pretty easily. But keeping these specific ones that you include with your media kit is kind of fun, because every month when you update it, you literally see like, oh, my click-through rate was this last month and now it's this. Okay. It's not like, you can't really do anything, but it's sort of interesting if you look at demographics and you're like, oh, look, I'm starting to get, older people are starting to be interested in my stuff, or wow, now more younger people, like, it's kind of interesting. You start figuring out where different locations are watching your stuff, and just keeping track of it month over month, to me, has been fascinating. Like, nobody else needs to see that. Like, I could just do that myself, but if I'm going through the work to do it, then I might as well just put it up and make it available. So that's kind of my thought on, on the media kit basics. So I'm going to bring up a screen right now. This is Photoshop. If you're listening to this is just my Photoshop document. I have, each page is its own Photoshop document. I just do 8.5 by 11 at 300 DPI resolution. So you could do the same thing in Canva and Illustrator and Keynote. You could put together your pages for your media kit in any software you want. I just use Photoshop because that's what I like. So I built everything from scratch. Started doing this in October. I think it was October of 2019 was when I started the media kit. And it has evolved. So the design choices and the types of pages and the info and the graphics and stuff, they've changed over time. But it's at the point now where I think my media kit is 11 pages or so, but I really only have to update 3 of them every month with new numbers. So the pages that I update, I do put down at the bottom, I put the month and the year. So, like right now, if you go to, as you're listening to this, if you go to the website and download the media kit, you'll see that everything says October of 2021. Even though I made that version of the media kit in November, all of the numbers are from October. So it kind of follows a month behind. And I'll walk you through the whole process. If you're watching the video version, you'll be able to see this. If you're listening, I think it'll make sense. You can imagine what a document looks like, right? And again, if you want to see the video version, you can do Patreon or YouTube channel memberships, links in show notes, etc. And I always appreciate that very much. So I have a number of pages. I guess let's go through the media kit first. I'll show you the media kit, and then we'll kind of break it down, the process from there. So as I'm trying to jump over here. Okay. What the heck? I'm trying to do this in Ecamm, but I clicked on the wrong thing. So here we go. Here's my website. If you scroll down to the bottom, this thing says download my media kit. You click on that, it'll open a PDF. You can save it, whatever. I do make sure that when I upload the new media kit, I actually delete the old one from my website. So if somebody had bookmarked it or saved it or something, they don't have access to it anymore, because all the numbers are going to be outdated, and I just want people to have the most recent ones. So your media kit will feel weird because it's a lot of like, look how great I am, but you can adjust I guess you could adjust the level of narcissism you want. But it is about you, right? It is for people who aren't that familiar with you, who want to know more about you. So don't feel too awkward making your media kit about you, because that is the entire point of it. If you're not being braggadocious and hyperbolic and all this kind of stuff, it's not going to be too strange. If you're trying to, make it sound like you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, then it might be a little weird. Which, by the way, since I've started making my own bread recently, because I'm a white person during COVID, so I learned how to make sourdough because that's what we had to do. Yes, I have a totally different appreciation for sliced bread because once you get down to like the end of the sourdough loaf and it's like small and you're trying to slice it and it's like really difficult. Man, sliced bread is a great thing. Anyway, my media kit has a cover page, which just it's basically my YouTube channel banner. It says media kit. It has my website URL on it. And then you scroll down to the first page, which is a short bio. And it has a picture of me and stuff. I try to make sure there's pictures and visual elements on every page. It's not just text because you want it to be interesting. This page has the most text of any page on it, and I don't really think people will read. I don't think people are going to read it that much, but at least it says like, who I am, what I do. And it talks about me being a teacher. It talks about having a YouTube channel. Actually, I need to update that because it says 200 videos and that's up to like 300 now. Talks a little bit about what kind of videos I make. Also explains that, I'm from Southern California and all that kind of stuff. And that I like teaching people things. So that's the bio page. The next page goes into YouTube total engagement. My media kit is geared very heavily towards YouTube because that's my main platform. So YouTube total engagement, I tried to put as much handwritten text as I could in here, but in terms of workflow, doing everything by hand is very slow. And so this is the only page where I changed the handwritten numbers every month. And there's only 3 of them. So in my experience, these are 3 things that are important to have in your YouTube media kit, which are subscribers, views, and watch hours. So this is for the lifetime of my channel, not just the previous month, but the channel as a whole over its lifetime. Right now it says 80,400 subscribers, 7.9 million views, and 619,000 watch hours. You can get all that info right at the top of your analytics page, which I could probably just show you. Actually, if we let's just go to YouTube Studio right now, and I can show you what to click on to do that, if we can. It's always fun to listen to somebody struggle their way through navigating a website thing. But here's my YouTube analytics. There's all the numbers. You can see them. Hooray. Look at that. Your channel's view count was slightly higher than usual in the last 28 days. Did they have to put the word slightly in there? They couldn't have just said higher? Slightly higher? Boy. Anyway, what you can do is, this is just the main homepage of your analytics. Instead of doing last 28 days up here, you can just click on lifetime and it will show you since your channel was made, everything. That's where you see all the main numbers. Wow, my channel in its lifetime has made $36,000 in ad revenue. That's cool. And that's where you see those numbers. So that's where I get those from. And then for the rest of it, I just go through this specific month. So like in this case, it would be October 2021 for the most recent media kit. And then I can see all of those numbers and go through page to page from there. So that's kind of the easiest way to pull those numbers. And that's pretty much it. That's all it's on that page. The next page is monthly engagement, which is really like, again, these are just the things I have chosen to include. It's not stuff that you have to have or don't have to have, but I have chosen to do monthly engagement. So it's mostly about the audience. I include locations, audience age, and gender. So, and I make these little charts in pages, and then I export, it's so annoying. And then I export the charts as a PDF from Pages. And then I have a Photoshop document that has like this pretty page with a blank spot on it. And I can put the charts into the Photoshop document and then save that. And then, well, here I'll show you actually. So when I'm done in Photoshop, what I do is I save everything as a JPEG. But because Squarespace has like a 20 megabyte limit on uploads, I have to save them as JPEGs with the quality set to 10, because if I set the quality up to the highest, the total media kit will be beyond 20 megabytes. So if I put my JPEG quality at 10 in Photoshop, everything still looks really good, and then the file size is small enough to upload. That's a Photoshop specific thing. If you're using Canva or a different program, just be aware, like depending on how graphically intense your media kit is and how many pages it is, it might affect how the size that you're able to upload, depending on where you're hosting it. If you're just keeping it on your desktop and you're just, Google Drive sharing it to people who asked for it, it doesn't really matter. If you want to host it on a website, then your website host might have something to say about that. So anyway, what am I doing here? Right. Okay. So so it has top locations, which are countries, United States, in my case, United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and Germany, and then audience age and gender. You can really see the gender gap on my channel is not even at all. It is 93% male at the moment and 7% female. And audience age is a very interesting one because I myself fall right in the middle of the 35 to 44-year-old age group, but my highest viewer group is 25 to 34, which is fine. I mean, it's fine. The ones I try to do is I actually am trying to minimize the 18 to 24. Not that I don't want people who are 18 to 24 watching my channel or even younger than that, but it's just not like, I feel like the info that I'm sharing is not going to be most useful to that audience as a whole. I feel like it will be more useful to people 25 to 34, sure, 35 to 44, and then I would actually really love to bump over into the higher ones a little more, 45 to 54. That, because I'm not trying, because how much can you really try? But I'm always interested when things can skew a little more towards that older age group. And that's that whole page. It's pretty simple. Thinking that when people are looking through your media kit, they're not going to want to read every word. So it's kind of got to be quick and, boom, boom, boom. Here's a big bit of info. The next page is my favorite page on it. It's the most fun to update. And it's the one with all of the main analytics. So these are just the ones that I chose to include because I think they're the ones that are most relevant. If there is a potential brand partner, whatever, that wants to see analytics, this is the stuff that they would typically want access to your dashboard to see. And these are also the fun ones to track over multiple months. So I have a little box here that says most viewed videos, and I just have my top 5 most viewed videos, which is funny. Like the videos in this list don't really change every month, but sometimes the order of them change and the numbers change. So I just update that every month, which is cool. And then the monthly. Oh, and then I also let them know when I upload new videos every Thursday, 5:15 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then the actual analytics that I include are watch hours for the month. This is just monthly engagement. The number of watch hours, the number of views for that month, the average view duration, the number of subscribers gained, the number of unique viewers gained, which I think is very interesting. So for example, in October of 2021, my channel which just hit 80,000 subscribers, and that's super cool. And my channel that got 359,000 views last month, which is also very cool, it had 219,000 unique viewers. So that's way more than my channel's size, the number of different individuals who actually watch stuff on your channel. And I would almost guarantee that pretty much anybody with a YouTube channel, regardless of what your subscriber size is, your unique viewers it's going to be higher. And I think that's an important thing to point out because people so easily look at like, well, your channel only has this many subscribers. But if you point out like, yeah, but the actual reach of people that I'm connecting with this stuff is way beyond that, that's kind of cool. Then these sort of feel goofy, but it's the number of likes added, the number of comments added, which just sort of shows like positive engagement. And then of course the click-through rate. If you want to find your likes and your comments and stuff like that, this is something that I think is pretty neat. If you go to your YouTube analytics, and if the video version, you can see this, and you click like at the main box up here, there's a thing that says see more. See more. Wait. Oh, sorry, I was in the wrong thing. There we go. See more. And then this brings up a bunch of, it looks like an algebra notebook or something. But there's a little box up here that says views by date. And if you click on that, you can click on more metrics, and there are just so many different analytics that you can have access to. It's completely overwhelming, but a couple of the ones I like are likes. So if you click on that, you can see how many likes were added in a certain date range. You can also then go back and see how many comments were added. And I think that's cool because it's not just views, not just that. It's the comments one to me is a big one because it's showing people taking the time to actually like respond. Wow, there's a crazy bump in November right here. I got 1,200 new comments in October, but it's the middle of November and we're at 3,000. So that's cool. Anyway, see, you can figure stuff out like that. I don't know. That's pretty neat. So anyway, that's the main page. Those are pretty much the 3 pages that I actually have to update every month. So it doesn't take that long. It takes a bit of time to go through and pull out these numbers and then open the documents and save them. And I'll show you how I do that. But the other pages in here, then I do have a page of brand collaborations, which are just some brands that I've worked with. And I have it set up. This was actually an idea from Artlist because I made this whole PDF. And then my contact person at Artlist was just like, hey, I was browsing your website and I saw your media kit. It looks great. I was like, oh, thanks. And then she said, this is all digital, right? Like no one's printing this out. You could put links and stuff in your media kit because people are going to click on it. Like, I don't know why. I was like, I'm making a PDF. I was thinking of like as if somebody was going to print it out. So I have I have 6 thumbnails of different videos that were kind of like associated with different brands and partners and stuff. Finding music for your videos. See, there's I accidentally clicked on one right there. But it's kind of cool because then you can have links. So instead of just saying like, yeah, I did an Artlist video or video with them, that's a clickable thing and someone can go and see what you make or see what you're talking to. So that's kind of a cool, that's kind of a cool thing. I have another page about all my podcasts, which actually, yeah, it's missing the ska podcast, I realized. But then I was like, does that matter anymore? I don't know. Anyway, it's at least the 3 podcasts. Oh my gosh, this is embarrassing. I have old graphics on here. I need to update these. But anyway, my 3 main podcasts, this one, the one with Peter Lindgren, and the Couples Table, where it's explanations and cover art and stuff. And then after the podcast page is where I talk about the course, Podcaster Playbook. I haven't added in the Podcaster Idea Book yet, mostly because I'm lazy. But again, these are all also, there's links, so you can go, if someone were interested, they could click on it and it would take them to the course page. I have a little media and press page, which is it was just my way of going like, hey, like I have been, my stuff has been featured in other places. So there's like, Canon Price Watch did a thing, Studio Binder did a thing. There was a 3D printing article that came out. And then I even put my Teacher of the Year, County Teacher of the Year thing, because they spent like 2 days producing this whole video and stuff. So I put a link to that video up there. This page could probably go, but it's sort of neat if you're somebody who finds yourself like having your work posted and shared and, other places. It can be kind of cool just to let people know like, oh, look, I'm actually, people are interested in my work. I do have a page about video sponsorships, which is sort of, I don't know, it's interesting. This is where a lot of people might put their rates. So if you did want to put your rates, this is a place you could do that. But mine basically just says, take a moment to read my ethics statement. And there's a link to the ethics statement. I talk about my values when it comes to brand collaborations. Basically, like I want them to be authentic and a win for everybody. I do give some examples. So like a full integration could be an open and honest product review, hardware and software tutorials. I did talk about event and experience showcases because that could be like, if someone wants to send me to NAB, I'm not going to argue with that, so there's that kind of stuff. And I do just I have a little thing here that says all branded content includes top quality video production and editing, an engaging thumbnail, closed captioning, cheesy puns. That's a non-negotiable. That's basically stuff that any of my videos include, but it's just reminding people that like when you make a video, there's a lot more that goes into it than just pressing record on a camera, talking to the camera for a while, and then uploading that. So it's, especially stuff like closed captioning is pretty big. And then I have a note down here that says I'm extremely selective with partnerships. So, take that for what you will. And the last page is just it's like a back cover page. It just has some contact info, my email address, YouTube URL, and my social media handle. And that's the whole media kit right there. So that's what I have. You can probably search up other people's and find different ones. Mine's definitely not necessarily like the most perfect example by any means, but it's worked really well for me. I've gotten decent feedback on it, and I think going through it with you so that you can understand why I included some things, maybe why I didn't include other things, might be helpful. And I'm sure that there's also just blind spots where like, hey, maybe I should have included this, or maybe I shouldn't include that, and I did or I didn't. But now I kind of wanted to spend some time on the nuts and bolts of how to put that together. So this is the PDF of my media kit, but how do you get to that point? Let's see if I can show Photoshop here. But basically, as I mentioned, I create everything in Photoshop. And once this is done, that's when I save it as, like I mentioned before, I save it as a JPEG. And then when you're in Photoshop and you go to save something, oops, we don't want to do that. I don't want to save over a file. And you go to save something, it asks you to select the quality, and 12 is the maximum quality. I do 10 because it's still very high quality. Everything is clear. You can read everything, but it's just not taking up as much space. And so that's pretty much how I have them set up. And every page is just its own Photoshop. So if you were doing this in Canva, I would recommend creating every page of your media kit as its own Canva document. And, and if you're using other applications, just do whatever works best for you. But that's how I do it in Photoshop. And then once that's done, then I hop over to Pages. So I have this document. I use Pages just because on a Mac, I like Pages. I did a whole thing in college where I was fighting with like people who were like, you need to use Microsoft Word. And I was like, I don't like Microsoft Office. And this was back in, I don't know, whatever, 2006 or something. And I was an English major, so it was a lot of writing. And it was like, I never once used Microsoft Word for anything in my entire English undergraduate or my graduate stuff ever. I did it all on Pages and Keynote, which is, I don't know, that's a weird point of pride, I guess, but is what it is, So I just have a Pages document that has a lot of pages in it. And it's basically just the media kit. And when something needs to be added, so for example, I can probably show you. So everything kind of goes in the same order. And I just click on a page. So if I am done with this, let me zoom out a little bit here so you can see it more clearly. Say this monthly engagement page was the one from last month, I would just click on it and delete it. The other pages are still there. And then I just drag my JPEG that I saved from Photoshop in here and just scale it up so that it fits, but it's the same size because Pages is 8.5 by 11. My documents are 8.5 by 11. You can do the math. It all evens out there. And that's pretty much it. And then I save it. And then when I'm done, I just export it as a PDF. Now, a couple things have happened as I've tried to add new pages. It's really hard to like insert a page in between pages. So like the podcaster playbook is down here at the end after my title page. And then I also, for some reason, it just keeps putting in this blank page that I can't get rid of. These are the struggles. I'll talk about what I do about those in a second. But anyway, the other thing is how to do these links, right? Because I mentioned doing links in your PDF. It's a little trickier, but there's a cool workaround in Pages. So for example, what I do here is this is the brand collaboration page. And if I click on each of these pictures, you'll kind of see a link pops up, but you can't just make an image a link, especially because this whole thing is just one image. So you can't like image map it like you used to in old Microsoft front page days, where it's like this part of the image links here and this part of the image links there. So what I've done is basically let me see if I can show it somehow. It's sort of hard to show here. But basically I've put a little text box over everything that I want to be a link, whether that's a piece of text or an image or whatever. I create a text box and I fill that with just a big letter. So usually it's a bunch of W's because the letter W takes up a lot of physical space. And so I just create a text box and basically then I just type a bunch of W's over my text there. And then I select those and turn those into a link. Oh, in this case, it was a bunch of I's, not W's. But you put text on the page. It's covering up the thing that you want to be a link. You turn that text into a link. You just right click on it and do make link and then link it to whatever you want it to be. And then you go into the text editor, the style editor, and you play with the opacity. Oh, there we go. If I turn off the opacity, you can see this image got totally covered up by the letter I. I don't know. I is a good one too, in addition to W. But once it's a link, you just turn down the opacity. So now that text is invisible, but it's still going to show up as a clickable link. And then when you export as a PDF, it will save that. Nobody will see the text, but they will be able to click on the link. And that's a simple way to add in links to PDFs through Pages. And that's a super cool trick that I really, really like a lot. And that's pretty much that. And then I save this as a PDF. So here's what I'll do right now. I'm going to export as a PDF, best quality. And we're just going to call this, we're just do a test one right now. And then Let me open up that document here. So we don't need pages open anymore. Now I need to open up the PDF that I just created because I want to show you how to deal with things being out of order. The reason that my stuff is out of order is because I do make those, I add in those links and things. And if I added in a brand new page, it's hard to move all of that info. It's just hard. I don't know. That's the only way I can describe is that it's difficult. So I don't know how to do it. So here is, this is now you're looking at preview, I believe. Let me double check. Oh, we're just doing entire screen. We don't need that. You just need to see preview. There we go. So this is the PDF that I just saved in Pages, but it's out of order. So what I can do is like this blank page down here, I just select it and press delete and it goes away. And now the Podcaster Playbook one that I don't want to be at the very, very end, I can just drag it up to where I want it to be. This has only been something that's been a problem after I had the media kit for a long time. I had all these links and things in it, and then I wanted to start adding new pages in the middle because it stays in the same order every time. So anyway, once I do this, that's when I then save it as the actual media kit, and then I have a PDF that's ready to go. And then from there, let's see here. Let me close this. And then from there, that's when I can go to Squarespace, and basically I just have on my homepage here, there's a little graphic I made that says download my media kit. And if I click on that and edit it, then that's where I can, I just add a link right here, click the link setting thing, and I have it linked to a file. So instead of a web address, it's a file. Click upload file, and then upload the media kit. And that's it. So right now you can see it's Media Kit November 2021. That's the one that's currently linked. Next month, when I make the December one, I'll upload that. It'll say Media Kit December 2021, and then I will delete the November one. So it saves space on my hosting plan or server, but it also makes sure that outdated media kits aren't there anymore, which is a very, very helpful thing. And then of course I have a folder on my computer that has all of my media kits in it, all of my finished media kits, which I think might be kind of fun. Can I open up my very first one? Oh yeah. You know what? Let's do a side-by-side real quick, just so you can see how things have evolved now that I've done 24 versions of this. And just so you know, you don't have to get it perfect right away. So I'm going to share my entire screen. Oh, that is, wait. Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, so if you're looking at this, the left-hand side of the screen is my very first media kit, and the one on the right is the newest one. And the biggest difference here, oh boy, I just got had trouble breathing for a second. The biggest difference is the name, right? Because when I started doing my media kit, the Enthusiasm Project was my channel name, and then I switched to just my personal name. So changing that has been big. You can also even notice a subtle shift in the color blue. So originally it was more of a teal, and now it went to more of a a true buck blue, as they say. There's not a lot of different, some things changed. The bio page has actually been changed. I did want to mention, I write my bio page specifically in the first person. I have seen people do their bio pages in the third person, and I won't lie, I'm not going to judge you if you do that. If you want to do it, it's totally cool. Part of it irks me a little bit if I know for a fact that the person created the media kit themselves. They didn't have an assistant do it, or a manager or something. They made it themselves and they wrote it in the third person. It just sort of feels Tom is an accomplished video production creator. It's you wrote that about yourself? I don't know. So I just wrote mine. Oh, actually, no, look. Sorry. Perfect example. The first media kit was in third person because I think I had seen other people doing this, and I thought that's what you're supposed to do. And I hated that. Based in Southern California, Tom has spent the last 10 years as a high school teacher. No. And then now it just says, I've spent my entire life in Southern California. Hi, my name is Tom. That's what it starts out with. And I think that is much better. I like that a lot. You can see if I go through some of the pages, pretty fun when I said tracking progress. So here we go. I started my media kit with 8,500 subscribers, and now there's 80,000. That's really cool. The channel had 900,000 views, so it hadn't yet cracked the million view mark. Now it's almost 8 million. I was measuring it in watch minutes instead of watch hours. I I think I had seen somebody else do watch minutes, which turns out I think is just a way of making a number look bigger than it is, because there'll be more minutes than hours. And doing the math was really hard. And like your watch hours is what YouTube promotes like most actively. So it seems like when you go to your analytics, you see your watch hours right away. So it seemed like that made more sense to focus on there. And I'm just realizing that if you're watching this, I might be covering up some of this right now. And then, so you can just sort of see things develop. The monthly engagement page has like not really changed at all in terms of design. A lot of these things, like they've kind of been the same. Some of the phrasing, some of the colors are a little different. Oh, I hated this old brand collaboration page. So I redid that. The media and press page. I really tried to make things a lot more graphical and a lot more like, all the stuff about podcasts and the courses is brand new. I just tried to make stuff really show like it's a portfolio piece. And it's a portfolio piece. And then you can see, small little changes, things evolve over time. And a lot of it is like, there's probably more I should do in the media kit, but I just don't want to spend the time to do it. But it's a cool thing. It's a helpful thing. It's a fun thing. So I wanted to make sure to share that, because I think that kind of in line with some of the other stuff I've shared, like the revenue sheets and all that kind of stuff that's like concrete, useful tools for someone who's a content creator. I think that a media kit can be very confusing. People are often unsure if it's worth the time, if it's not worth the time. If it is something you want to do, how do you even do it? What do you include with it? Why do you include it? How do you put it together and upload it? So hopefully this kind of gives you a run through. Ultimately, I think you just want to end up with a PDF that has the info that you want to share to someone, sort of like a resume, and it can be super helpful. So again, if you want to check out my media kit, it's himynameistom.com, and it's just right on the homepage. Feel free to template it as much as you want. The pages are obviously like Photoshop designs that I've created myself, and they have a lot of my own writing. But in terms of like what's on the pages, the structure, the order, if you want to beg, borrow, manipulate, adjust any of that, and do it your own way, feel free to do that. It's definitely like, I would say it's like a C tier thing to do if we're doing like ranked tier things. Like it's something that's important to do. But if you could also be making a new episode of something, or creating a new video, or even building your own personal website or something, those are, I think it'd be better to spend the time on that. If you have the time then to do the media kit, it's a fun thing. And like I said, way back at the beginning, the ability to track your own progress separate from giving the media kit out to anybody is really, really cool. And it's a great way to consolidate all the different stuff that you do into one place so people can see what actually matters. You'll notice that in my media kit, I don't talk about Instagram or Twitter following engagement at all, because I don't want to. I just don't want to. I don't want that to be a thing that's on anybody's radar, or something that anybody thinks that. I just don't want that to be a thing. So, but other people do. If you have 100,000 Instagram followers or something, it might be worth mentioning that in your media kit. But it's also like, it's almost, if there's something that you're just doing purely for fun, and it's not something that you want to present in a super serious, polished way, don't feel like you have to include like, oh my gosh, I started this ska podcast, I have to immediately add it to the media kit. No, like, it's okay. And I do recommend keeping your media kit up to date. If you're dealing with analytics and things like I have in mine, monthly makes sense, because it would just, not only would it be inaccurate, but it would kind of reflect poorly upon you if someone's like, oh, here's the media kit and it's November and the numbers are from May or something. You could do quarterly, you could do quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3. Just don't make it look like it's super, super duper out of date. And, have fun with it, experiment with it. It's a cool chance to showcase your personality, to kind of put things out there. It's fun. If you got questions, I'd love to hear them. So feel free to reach out to me if you need them. I'm very, very grateful for you spending your time with me today in my forest of Nanlite Pavo tubes, which again, this is just the coolest. I love this GoPro shot up here. It just looks so neat. We've got 2 episodes left this season. So, Oh, and let's see. We got 2 episodes left this season. Next week, my plan is to talk all about this big ENG Sony camera. Not just about the camera, but also kind of like it ties in nice to just my crazy, bizarre experiences working at a TV station in my late teens and early 20s. Very ridiculous stories from there. So I thought that's what we talk about there. And then we have the season finale, which I want to do something special for. Also, for people here who the super cool VIPs who listen to this podcast, and also for people who are on my mailing list, I created a special promo code if you want to enroll in either of my courses or both of them. From now through the end of 2021, you can go to himynameistom.com/courses, and either of the courses you can gosh, this is the worst sales pitch. I'm like in the middle of like stifling a burp. So the best marketing in the world is me trying not to burp my way through a promo. So yeah, if you use this promo because of that, I'll know that you're really committed. But if you want to enroll in either course, you can go to himynameistom.com/courses, of course, or you can even just go to like podcasterplaybook.com. It's all there. And use promo code podcasts are fun. Podcasts with an S. Podcasts are fun. And you get 15% off either or both courses, which is a pretty decent deal on the Podcaster Playbook, which is $300. That comes out to like $45 off. It's pretty good. And the idea book's $100 minus 15, so it saves you $15. That's pretty great. If you want to enroll, that deal is good all from now all the way through the end of 2021. So feel free to do that. And of course, you can always reach out to me, Tom at enthusiasmproject.com, if you have comments, thoughts, and things. And otherwise, I really appreciate you listening. I hope that was helpful. I would love to know. Please share your thoughts, feedback, all that kind of stuff, because I love to know. I haven't really talked about media kits that much, so I'm interested in what you think. And I hope you have a safe, happy, healthy, fun rest of your week. And I will see you next time, except that I can't find my outro button. Oh, God. Well, the video version, everybody. Hello, this is me on audio version. I accidentally ended the video version early, and I didn't mean to, so there's no outro there, but we will have an outro for the audio version. So have a great, happy, healthy, fun rest of your week.